Hello, my name is Garofina Wojcica Gibson. I am a member and supporter to the Committee of the International Tribunal for Natural Justice. I am also a member of Innocence Project and a member of Black Lives Matter. I'm a defendant and an activist of human rights and also a CEO and founder of Truth TV Media. I'm bringing this message to you on behalf of over 1 million supporters for the immediate release of Terrell Omar Gibson, a Bahamian man, innocent, who has suffered an incredible injustice by being sentenced to life with no possibility of parole for a crime he did not commit by a corrupt judge, Anna I. Gardner, in Broward County Court, Florida, USA. This extraordinary story has been brought in front of us, and we are broadcasting this worldwide and campaigning globally and protesting against racism and injustice. Please join us and support the release of Terrell Omar Gibson, an innocent man who has already served 14 years in Florida State Prison, currently at Okeechobee, Florida Prison, for a crime that he did not commit. Help us by fighting against injustice that this innocent man has suffered, and sign the petition to free Terrell Omar Gibson now and release him immediately. We will present his inside story in more details. His innocence has been supported by physical evidence which cannot be refuted. The fingerprints found belonged to 2 other people, but they did not belong to Terrell Omar Gibson. The person who committed the crime came forward and took the stand in court and wrote a sworn affidavit that he, Chris McClary, committed the crime and not Terrell Omar Gibson, by apologizing to the victims and to Terrell Omar Gibson in an evidentiary hearing in Broward County Court. Still, Mr. Gibson was not released, and after all the evidence which we present in front of you, he still is in prison to date. Please sign the petition now to help release Terrell Omar Gibson. We also campaign and protest and broadcast the case for the release of this innocent man. Please contact us at freeterrellomar@gmail.com, and also the telephone number you can find us at +44 7922 74 7998, and join us fight for Terrell Omar Gibson's immediate release. The Florida government and Florida Departments of Justice must please release this innocent man immediately. I'm speaking from Westminster, London, United Kingdom, on behalf of over 1 million supporters demanding justice and immediate release for the innocent Bahamian man Terrell Omar Gibson, sentenced to life with no possibility of parole in Broward County Court, Florida, USA, for crimes that he did not commit. Join our campaign, Free Terrell Omar Gibson now, and sign the petition on Facebook and other social media, and support and protest against injustice, racism, miscarriage of justice, part of the same atrocity of incarcerating black people. It could be your husband, it could be your son, it could be your brother, it could be your father, it could be your friend. Free Terrell Omar Gibson campaign will also be released, broadcasting all over the world via Channel 4 News United Kingdom, Local 10 News Miami, and Truth TV Media. We need your voice to fight for injustice, and please sign the petition now to free Terrell Omar Gibson. Also contact us to freeterrellomargibsonnow@gmail.com. This case is before the 70th Judicial Circuit in and for Broward County, Florida. The case number is 0318910CF10B, Terrell Omar Gibson versus State of Florida. The factual points and violations about this case are as following. Mr. Terrell Omar Gibson was arrested, placed in restraint and transported to the police station against his will and without his consent, and no Miranda warning was read to him, and there was no probable cause for his arrest on 4 counts of armed robberies and 1 count of armed burglary, 1 count of fraudulent use of credit card. During this time that Mr. Gibson was illegally detained by the Fort Lauderdale police officers, he was being questioned for crimes that he did not commit, and yet again no Miranda warnings were read to him. Mr. Gibson asked them before if he was being arrested. The officers lied to Mr. Gibson, stating that he wanted to question Mr. Gibson about Mr. Gibson's truck being stolen. All of this was recorded. However, the trial lawyer, Mr. James Vincent Fasciolo, filed a motion against Mr. Gibson's will to suppress this statement along with the state attorney and the judge, suppressing this evidence that could have been used on his behalf to show that he was being illegally detained. An affidavit of arrest was written, signed, stamped and dated on October the 10th, 2003 by Judge Mark Gold and Detective Walter. However, the affidavit was written 3 weeks before the alleged crime even took place. The alleged crime took place on October 30th, 2003. Clearly this is fraud, because how can an affidavit for arrest be issued before a crime even takes place? 2 black males were reported to the police of committing this crime. 2 sets of fingerprints were collected as evidence from the crime scene, none of which belonged to Mr. Gibson. They belonged to someone else. Mr. Gibson told his trial lawyer to demand a public trial by judge. However, Mr. Gibson's trial lawyer, Mr. Fasciolo, went against him and demanded a jury trial. During the jury selection, Anna I. Gardner, the judge, have violated Mr. Gibson's right to a public trial by excluding the public from the courtroom. Therefore, the public was not present to do their job, to make sure that the defendant is fairly dealt with and to make sure that the trial participants be fair and just and do their job professionally. Trial lawyer Mr. Fasciolo failed to strike bias and prejudice jurors who stated that multiple charges would cause the biased thinking in deliberation and that they could not be fair. Also, jurors who were involved with police officer and stated that the police officer would start off with a credibility advantage over Mr. Gibson. The jurors were the victims of credit card fraud, and this was one of the charges that Mr. Gibson was being accused of and tried for. The judge even threatened to put one of the jurors in jail, stating jail or juror, making this improper statement and creating a hostile jury because the juror did not want to be there. The state attorney struck the only black juror for race only and did not hold a nil inquiry or a baton hearing to show that the strike was not because of race only. Therefore, Mr. Gibson was tried before all-white jury. Throughout all of this violation, Mr. Fasciolo did not object, nor did he question any of the jurors. The judge asked him, did he have any questions for the jurors, and he stated no. Trial lawyer Mr. Fasciolo also admitted on the record that he committed Mr. Gibson to testify. The court recognized this violation and stated on the record to Mr. Fasciolo that the right to testify belongs to Mr. Gibson. However, Mr. Fasciolo stated that he had already committed Mr. Gibson to testify without Mr. Gibson's knowledge. Trial lawyer also failed to properly prepare Mr. Gibson to take the witness stand, also admitting on the record that he only needed 10 seconds to prepare Mr. Gibson to testify. It is clear that no lawyer can properly prepare a defendant to take the witness stand in 10 seconds. This too was stated on the record. The lead detective, Mr. Walter, admitted on the record during trial that he had tampered with the evidence by altering Mr. Gibson's driving license photo on a computer. Family member and friend was outside courtroom and saw the state attorney pointing out to the victim which one was Mr. Gibson, so that they know who to pick in court. Even on the record, the trial lawyer objected when the state attorney asked the victim, do you see anyone in the court that you recognize? And again pointed out to Mr. Gibson. On the 20th of June 2008, an evidential hearing on shackling and sequestration issues was presented to Anna I. Gardner, but was denied. By jury seeing the shackle on Mr. Gibson's legs during trial automatically prejudiced Mr. Gibson, and this is a violation of the constitutional law. This all happening at the same time when the Judge Anna I. Gardner's scandal of misconduct and her relationship with the prosecutor came to light, and all her work was affected by it. And later she was under investigation about her relationship with prosecutors and state attorneys. This is a clear indication that she showed favoritism to the state attorney over Mr. Gibson. She was in charge of 18 judges at the 17th Circuit Broward County Court, but due to her harm that an action that had been caused, she was disbarred by the Florida Supreme Court at the recommendation of Florida Bar for her lies, misconduct, corruption, and close relationship and friendships with state prosecutors. Ultimately, Mr. Gibson suffered an incredible injustice and has been sentenced to life with no possibility of parole. The actual person who committed the crimes, Mr. Christopher McClary, known also as Tarvirus Moxie, wrote a sworn affidavit giving details of the crime and stating that he was the one that committed the robbery and burglary charges and not Mr. Gibson. On June 18, 2010, an evidentiary hearing on newly discovered evidence was conducted before Judge Martin Bidwell. Mr. Christopher McClary took the stand and testified, admitting that he was the one who committed the crimes and not Mr. Gibson. However, the judge, Mr. Martin J. Bidwell, denied Mr. Gibson's release, stating that he did not believe Mr. McClary's confession. Mr. Gibson was charged as a career criminal, tried and sentenced as a career criminal in a career criminal court before a career criminal judge, Anna I. Gardner, and he also appeared on mugshots as a career criminal. However, Mr. Gibson is not a career criminal. Mr. Gibson does not have any criminal history and any criminal records. The prosecutor, Sarah L. Murphy, mentioned at the trial also that Mr. Gibson had no criminal history, and that is also recorded on the record. Why was then Mr. Gibson moved from Judge Mark Gold to a repeat offenders court, Judge Anna I. Gardner, and sentenced to life with no possibility of parole when he is not a repeat offender? It is clear that they were trying to imply that by sentencing him in a repeat offenders court would justify the highest sentence when that court had no jurisdiction over Mr. Gibson. As listed above, Judge Anna I. Gardner was removed from the judge's bench in 2010 for unlawful behavior and acts committed against the law, also for having improper relationship with the state attorneys. There is currently a motion 3.850 for post-conviction relief still pending before Judge Martin J. Bidwell in Broward County Court, Florida, be filed on 18th of April 2014 under Theodore Spera. On this date, I hereby declare that everything stated herein is true and correct and can be supported by physical evidence and by the face of the record and cannot be refuted. Therefore, based on the above, in all fairness and justice, Mr. Terrell Omar Gibson has served 14 years of life in prison for a crime that he did not commit and should be immediately released from the Florida State Prison and united with his family. Mr. Terrell Omar Gibson's case is assigned to Rebecca Nealon, which is Assistant State Attorney, and also the State Attorney, Michael Satz, and the General State Attorney, Pamela Bondi. We will be in contact with Rick Scott, the Governor of Florida, regarding this matter. Please sign the petition and help and support to free Terrell Omar Gibson, to release this innocent Bahamian man who has been sentenced to life in Florida State Prison without the possibility of parole by a corrupt judge, Anna I. Gardner, for crimes that he did not commit, and he already has served 14 years in prison. He needs to be reunited immediately with his family. Please sign the petition now to help free Terrell Omar Gibson. Thank you.